Rangefinders aren't exactly the most technologically advanced cameras, with the majority of them lacking standard features of cameras from the 80s, let alone today. But in their heyday, they were well ahead of the curve, and in the 1950s, Leica, who popularized the rangefinder and in many ways photography, released arguably one of their most complex and advanced products to date, that fundamentally changed rangefinder photography. A lens that not only captures history, but shows us why gear matters, and might tell us why these cameras' popularity persists, despite costing more, while offering less. I'm David, and this is the whole picture. The Summicron 50mm f2 with close focus capabilities, or Summicron DR as it's often referred to, was released in the late 1950s as a variant on the classic 50mm Summicron line, but with a revolutionary twist that makes it one of the most technologically advanced rangefinder lenses to date, overcoming one of their biggest shortcomings: close focus. While most contemporary Leica lenses could only focus down to 1 meter, the Summicron DR was able to quickly and easily get over 50% closer at around half a meter. Now, while that might not sound impressive on a modern camera system, the Summicron DR fundamentally changed how and what you could photograph on a rangefinder, and remains one of the most accurate, closest focusing Leica M lenses. But despite this, we've never really seen a lens like it since, which tells us a lot about the interplay between culture and equipment. It's not that rangefinder lenses, or any lens in theory really, can't focus closer. The difficulty on a traditional rangefinder comes from the need to maintain accuracy while not viewing a scene directly through the lens. This kind of estimated framing introduces parallax, which becomes more difficult to correct for at closer distances, not to mention the focus accuracy necessary as depth of field also becomes smaller. Before the Summicron DR, there were many accessories to help achieve closer focus on rangefinders, but these solutions were often clunky, requiring lenses to be remounted, and typically for the sole purpose of macro or reproduction photography. The beauty of the Summicron DR is that it was designed to work within the constraints of the rangefinder. With a clever workaround and one accessory, the photographer could seamlessly switch between a normal and close focus range. Hence the DR, or dual range name, is come to be known by. Users could simply focus to the end of the normal range, pull the focus clutch away from the camera, and switch over to the close range. Brilliantly, a multi-purpose safety and accuracy measure was also implemented. The Summicron DR would only focus in the close range when using the SDP-00 goggle accessory, which when mounted would depress this button, unlocking the focus while simultaneously correcting both the viewfinder and rangefinder windows for accurate framing and focus. A clever solution like this that works within the constraints of a system to expand its capabilities while not compromising on its normal functionality opens up a whole new realm of photography to users and shows us that gear can have a direct impact on our workflow and images. In practice, the Summicron DR also shows us why Leica became a legend in the camera world. The build quality is second to none and one of the densest lenses of its size you'll ever find, which does make the camera a little bit front heavy in some cases, but actually feels perfectly balanced when using winder accessories. The contoured and textured focus ring inspires confidence with anything from little nuances to large focus shifts. At larger apertures, the Summicron DR offers a pleasing balance of character and contrast, so long as you avoid strong direct light. And stopping down renders images that are almost hard to believe come from a lens of this vintage. The close focus range kicks in at 1 meter, and for my style, this is enough of a distinction to justify bringing out the goggles, but I can see it being kind of a pain point for modern portrait photographers that frequently want to go between a close-up and medium close-up without losing the moment, in which case it can be a bit frustrating to either have to compromise or go back and forth with the goggles. On digital mirrorless though, the process is way more seamless. You can override the safety mechanism by pressing this button where the goggles would normally mount, unlocking the focus, and making it one of the most versatile rangefinder lenses on mirrorless, with the added benefit that it was probably optimized for close focus compared to say a normal lens that you're focusing closer using a helicoil or macro tubes. But when using the DR on something like the Voigtlander VM close focus adapter, you can get quite a bit closer, making for a versatile setup on mirrorless. While Leica had offered goggles and close focus accessories for other lenses, combining them into a convenient package makes the Summicron DR one of the most compelling do-it-all rangefinder lenses ever made. But if the design is so good, why didn't the dual range concept ever catch on? The answer isn't necessarily clear-cut, but we can make some educated assumptions by taking a wider look at camera history. While rangefinders were popular in the first half of the 20th century, thanks to their technological achievements, starting around the 1950s, innovations in single-lens reflex cameras and lenses saw them become the dominant force in the camera world, diversifying and advancing the tech and culture in a way that still echoes today. The widespread use of pentaprisms in single-lens reflex cameras and improvements to optical design resulted in more versatile equipment which could focus closer and frame more accurately without the need for accessories. Leica also leveraged these advancements with their VisiFlex mirror accessory for M cameras and eventually the Leica R system of single-lens reflex cameras, both of which offered closer, more convenient, more accurate focus and framing for the average user at a time when close focus was still relatively new to consumers and probably seen as more of a utilitarian function of the camera. The ease and accuracy of a pentaprism system was tough competition for the Summicron DR at this time. History is often about being in the right place at the right time. Leica was able to popularize and democratize photography with their smaller, lighter, and easier to use rangefinder cameras, and might have even been able to challenge SLR's close focus dominance if the dual range concept came about a bit earlier. But regardless, you can't hold back innovation and an ever-evolving photographic culture. Yet, in a world where cameras are increasingly about function, how can these simple machines that haven't changed much since the 1950s demand such a premium? Well, in a world where cameras are trying to do it all for an ever-growing audience, less is valuable. Leica's decision to not pursue the dual range concept further, as well as many other possibilities as photography changed, is in no small part what keeps the M mount around as one of the longest running camera systems in history. The modern Leica can't focus closer than 0.7 meters, it doesn't have autofocus or a flip-out screen, but as the Summicron DR shows us, these aren't necessarily impossibilities of physics, but more of a decision to focus on form over function that creates a workflow and mindset some will enjoy, and others will find to be the perfect distillation of the essentials of photography. And for those very few, it's something worth paying for. Of course, there are other reasons the M-mount legacy persists, collectors, and the viability of using cameras and lenses that span most of the history of modern photography being a big part. But this also makes innovation difficult when you have to support a system that's lasted the greater part of a century. And the Summicron DR unfortunately has limited functionality or is flat out incompatible with some modern Leica M cameras. So the Summicron DR became something of a footnote in rangefinder history, but it's by no means forgotten. It's a testament to what built Leica's legacy and a rare example of both form and function. It's also one of Leica's most accessible lenses that gives a lot of bang for buck and a dense lens in build and significance. Anyways, I'm David, and this is The Whole Picture.